Hello and welcome to the Bulletin Bytes, your podcast on the Bulletin box. I'm your host, Zareen, with a social campaign, which is a collaboration between my venture, the Ethical Badass Factory, and the Bulletin box. In this series of podcasts, I bring to you people from different walks of life and different regions of the world to address a problem common to all of us: workplace bullying. Why is bullying such a problem? Besides demoralizing and destroying the individuals who are targets of bullying, it tears into the reputation of individuals and organizations alike. It tears into productivity and it costs companies billions of dollars worldwide. Now, if bullying is not a serious problem to be tackled in the workplace, what is? We have Grant Saptoe with us all the way from South Africa to shed some light on this menace. He is the MD of Paradigm Management Consulting, which tackles bullying in the workplace. Grant is an extremely passionate advocate for legislation to tackle bullying in the workplace. He has written articles in magazines, he has spoken on radio, webinars, and he has also appeared on local television and engages organizations on bullying interventions. He has just filmed a documentary, an international bullying awareness campaign in Japan, and is soon going to publish his first book as well on the subject matter. Welcome, Grant.
Thank you very much, Zari. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody.
Good morning, Grant. Rather, it is afternoon here in India.
Good afternoon to all the viewers.
Afternoon. It is our absolute pleasure to have you here, Grant, from across the world. And bullying is indeed an issue that cuts across cultural barriers, isn't it?
Absolutely. Bullying does not discriminate against any barriers. Bullying is an imbalance of power. It is gender neutral. It doesn't care who you are, what you do. It is that serious and that severe.
Firstly, Grant, I want to know your story. Can you tell us a little bit about why and how you have taken up this fight against bullying?
Absolutely. So a few years ago, I worked for one of the world's largest organizations, a very, very popular organization. And I was bullied, sadly, by my boss. And it continued for quite a while. The emotional, mental anxiety, the depression that I went into, it was truly severe on my body, my mind, and my family. It wasn't long, and I decided to leave the organization. When I left, I took a mutual separation. A non-disclosure agreement was signed so that I couldn't speak out. Today, these things are becoming more and more common in the world.
Wow. Really?
Absolutely.
So they bully you and then they ask you to sign an NDA so that you don't reveal what's happening in the organization.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Absolutely.
gosh. Okay.
So the secrets get swept under the carpet.
Wow. Okay. That's telling. And you said this is a big organization. So I'm presuming this is a multinational.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the biggest in the world. One of the biggest in the world.
Okay, that was revealing.
So yes, so what I then decided, I joined two other organizations and I was again a victim of bullying. And whilst I was at another multinational, I then decided that why am I working for a corporate? Why am I being subjected to abuse by corporates? I know what the consequences and the ramifications of bullying is, and that I now needed to take that expertise, knowledge, and experience and share it with the rest of the world. And that is when I decided to embark on becoming a consultant in the field of bullying in the workplace. So I put together all my material. I got accredited with service with various training providers so that I could train private sector and for schools and governing bodies. And yes, so today it's becoming a global initiative. I'm, privileged to be able to speak to you guys here today on the journey of bullying.
Okay, so you have actually been a victim of bullying, a target of bullying, and you have decided to, take what you have gone through and use it for the larger good to help other people who've gone through bullying. That's absolutely amazing, Grant. That's absolutely amazing what you're doing. And Grant, all of us know, right, that bullying is a terrible thing to do. But then why do people bully, Grant? Are they not aware of what they are doing? Are they not aware that what they are doing is bullying? And are they not aware of the consequences of their actions, both on themselves and on the target of bullying? Are they not aware of it?
This there's a yes and a no. Most times people are aware of the fact that they are bullying because a lot of them have been subjected to bullying before. Some of them are just bad leaders. Some of them just don't understand, how they don't have emotional intelligence or social intelligence. They don't know how to interact with others. But a lot of times it's got to do with somebody that is unscrupulous in their quest for power to ascend to the top of the ladder, to get to the top of the corporate game. And because they are so unscrupulous, they are so tactful, they know how to play, they know who to team up with, and to how to break and denigrate somebody else's spirit. So yes and no, some of them are aware because of personal experience or personal setbacks, and some of them are not. So we have to also learn to distinguish between the two. When somebody could be assisted to say, listen, it's bad leadership, or no, you are definitely a bully, and we need to take action against you.
So, Grant, you spoke about why people bully. However, we talk about office politics. All of us hate office politics, and we all know that there is the good politics, which is, networking and getting your way around the organization and getting your work done. And then there is the bad politics, the negative politics. So what is the thin line between negative work politics and bullying? Or is there a line? Is there an overlap?
Absolutely. I think the important thing to understand is bullying is persistent behavior. Bullying is something that happens over a period of time. It's repetitive. It is deliberate because it's meant to hurt you. It's meant to demean and demoralize your spirit and your mind. So when you look at things like harassment, harassment is a once-off incident. It's a once-off thing that happens. Because the person doesn't like you because you're the color of your skin, the color of your hair, because you're male, because you're female, they don't like you. That is classified as harassment. But bullying happens over and over and over because I want to hurt you. I really want you to feel the pain that I felt. And bullying targets are well-liked, respected people in an organization. Most times that people bully you, it's because they don't like you, or because you are too popular, or because they feel so inferior or insecure because you are taking something that they want, and those are a few of the reasons why they do bully. So just in terms of the barrier or the line, one needs to understand by definition what bullying, harassment, and what being a jerk is, so that you can then define if it's politics, bad or good.
Okay, so you are saying that the targets of bullying are actually popular people in the organizations, maybe people who are doing their work well, people who are getting noticed by the management, and the bully bullies because he is feeling inferior in a certain way, he's feeling insecure, and he wants to take the spotlight away from the target, from the person he's bullying, and thus he bullies. Wow, that's revealing because, what you see in movies, popular movies, especially popular Hollywood movies, is that the unpopular girl or the unpopular guy is always bullied by the popular people. But what you have said is actually the reverse of what happens, maybe in high schools across the world. The people who are bullied are the popular people in organizations, the ones who are doing well. So that's a complete 180-degree turnaround in the viewpoint on bullying, and it really makes us think about the psyche of the bully and what gives them the power, or what feeds them to make them go out and bully somebody else. That really gives some insight, Grant. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Grant, I'm sure the after effects of bullying linger. How, in your opinion, does this affect the target of bullying? And looking at the bigger picture, why should companies take bullying seriously? What, in other words, are the costs that a company bears with a culture that permits bullying?
That's a very, very good question, Zareen. The physical, physiological, emotional, and psychological permutations of bullying, it is so severe. I'll take myself. When I was a victim of bullying, my hair started to fall out in pieces. It's called alopecia. I had severe, severe stomach pains, stomach aches. No amount of painkillers, no amount of tablets could assist with alleviate the pain. The headaches, the migraines that I got was so severe. I went to doctor constantly. And the problem is because it now becomes, it's mental anxiety and stress. Your world becomes so small. You're filled with hopelessness and helplessness. So everything else just doesn't seem to exist or make sense anymore because you're fighting for survival right now. And you cannot speak to anybody about it because there are protocols that need to be followed. A bully also enjoys rights from a confidentiality perspective. But the impact to the individual is really and truly severe because if you are not a strong-willed individual to overcome these psychological, emotional, and mental anxiety and stress and pain that you feel, because it becomes a lot more physical where you cannot sleep, you cannot eat, you have gastric indigestion or gastric problems because you cannot eat. How that is bad. If somebody is subjected to a point where they cannot eat properly or they cannot sleep properly, those are basic human rights. And that has been taken away by something called fear of bullying, that it is encroaching your space and hurting your mind, psychological, your entire psyche. So yes, it is important that we take note of these things because it is severe, because that inevitably affects my productivity. Now I cannot work optimally at work. I stay out of work often because I'm absent. I need to go and see a doctor, or I'm not well enough, strong enough to perform my job. Because I cannot do that, the organization has to get the replacement for me. If it happens once, it's fine. If it happens twice, 3 times, it puts a burden on that person who is replacing me. Now, if you have to do that to 3, 4, 5, 6 people, imagine the amount of lost hours in terms of productivity.
Yeah.
When you look at the absenteeism, add up those man hours, the strain, the burden that it puts on the organization. So right. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but yes, there is definitely an economic impact and a non-economic or financial impact, which I'm sure we'll discuss a little later.
Right. So what you are saying is again so revealing. You are saying that you actually got physical ailments because of bullying. The mental harassment showed on you physically. So apart from obviously the strain that you are going through because of your physical ailments, and the financial strain that you will go through because you are the cost of your treatment, the organization is obviously losing out on man hours because of the fact that the target of bullying is obviously not performing at work. He's either on leave or he's just not in a position to perform. He's not mentally fit to perform. That is telling. And if we could put a number to this, Grant, a number to how much organizations are losing worldwide due to bullying, because people really need to be enlightened. I don't think we are taking workplace bullying as seriously as we should be. So if we could put a number to it, Grant, what would it be? You being the expert.
Very, very good question. It runs into the billions. Zareen, as an example, just as a simple dollars. As a simple example, let's take one individual, a senior leader in an organization who's earning, give or take, $1 million, $2 million per year, plus bonuses. If that individual is bullied persistently and constantly over a period of time, that person's presenteeism, because he goes to work, his mind is not functioning. Or if he's not at work, his absenteeism, it's a cost to the organization. The presenteeism, the person comes to work, but they're not fully there. Right. If they're working on a lathe, cutting work, the health and the mental effect or impact on the health and safety, that person can cut their finger, cut their arm, because they're not physically 100% coherent or fully functioning because they are so preoccupied with the stress and the anxiety. Right. Now, just in terms of the figure, the US the US, the UK, Australia, and Canada have quite significant amounts of money that they attribute to bullying. And in the US, it's over $360 billion. I know in the UK, we're looking at the astronomical figure of, these are hypothetical figures that were stated about 2014, 2015, something like $19 billion pounds in the UK, and which is a lot more. You've got in Canada, I think it's also $36 billion, and then Australia as well. A lot of these figures are obviously a lot more because it's very difficult to quantify. It's very difficult to quantify. But like you rightfully say, if organizations fully understand the cost, they would really start taking it a lot more serious. Because number one, it's the cost of litigation for me leaving the organization. The cost of the reason I leave, you need to replace me because I'm a skilled worker. What is the cost? What is the cost to recruit me? What is the background check cost to get me into that position again? The cost to retrain and reskill me. How long does it take for me to assimilate into the role? And once I've assimilated into that role, I decide to leave and I have to get somebody again. So all of these costs add up and they become quite significant. And at the end of the day, if I'm earning $2 million a year and I had to leave the organization, my total cost to company, my indirect costs, such as my computer, my hardware, my software costs, the security guard protecting me at the gate, my desk that I sit at, the bathroom amenities, the desk, the table, the coffee, the tea, those are all costs attributed or associated with my employment. So that 2 million now actually becomes 4 or 6 million. And if you take 10 people at 6 million, that's $60 million in 1 year. Now, how many other organizations go through those costs that they're not fully aware of? And again, we do not tell the CEO and we do not tell the CFO about these hidden costs because they think that everything is hunky-dory because we only tell them what we think they want to hear. And that is why they do not fully understand the ramifications of why the debits and the credits don't match. And that is why they performance manage and retrench people out of the business and downsize.
Right. And because they are blind to the effects of bullying, that may be the reason why they are asking people to sign NDAs, etc., because they really don't want to look at the problem because it's so big. But interestingly, Grant, you mentioned countries like the US, the UK, Australia, all of them developed countries. But how about, Grant, a country like India, with billions of people, it's the most highly populated country in the world, or for that matter, a country like South Africa. These are developing countries with laws not really completely in place against workplace harassment and bullying. And, the cultures are still very nascent, and maybe incidents of bullying could be more just because of the sheer size of the population. How about the cost to these countries, the developing countries? Do we have a number there, a number that we can quote?
My personal opinion, I would say we're running into trillions of dollars, into trillions. It's not billions, it's trillions.
It's trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars. And we really need to quantify, we really need to start doing our homework and start to really, do a root cause analysis, really get to the crux of it and quantify. Once it's quantified, every government, every CEO of every major multinational will shiver in their boots to see what it is actually costing them. Because when the shareholders actually find out that these costs could have been contained, because these are frivolous and vexatious costs, it's wastage. Because had you as a manager or a CEO understood the consequences, managed properly and had proper policy in place, you could have contained these unnecessary costs. Because now it's damaging to the company or the organization, and larger, it's more damaging to the government and to the country.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, trillions of dollars in countries where a lot of the population is below poverty line. They don't get here. There are children in countries like India who are going hungry because their families cannot afford to feed them, and trillions of dollars are just being wasted because somebody out there thinks he has a right to bully somebody else. Wow, that's crazy. That's a crazy number, Grant. Thanks for for throwing light on this number. Also, Grant, lastly, since this is a worldwide problem, bullying is a worldwide problem, I can only imagine, but I do hope that is not the case, that maybe some of our viewers may have suffered because of bullying at some point of time in their careers, or they may be targets of bullying right now. What is the one tip, Grant, that you would like to share with our audience so that they can effectively tackle or maybe help a friend of theirs tackle a bully?
Very good question. Zareen, there's no right or wrong answer. But the best advice, because it's a global problem, the most effective way for anybody to tackle bullying is when there is senior leadership commitment. When the bosses of the organization fully understand the ramifications of bullying, they've got policy, there's a zero tolerance approach to bullying, that perpetrators will be dealt with quickly and harshly. There are steps to be followed. So once that commitment is there from the organization, it makes you as the target, your life becomes a lot easier, because now you can now firstly go and approach the bully and say, listen, I do not condone or appreciate your behavior. If you're afraid to do that, you take somebody with you as a witness.
Yeah.
You have to first identify what's happening, that it's bullying. Check if there's a policy to protect you. Then you approach the person and say, listen, please, I do not appreciate the way you spoke to me. Refrain from doing this, or do not call me this. Document every single engagement that you have with an individual. And then you need to go and speak to a person of higher authority, not necessarily HR.
Right.
With all due respect to the HR profession, I'm an HR professional, but HR professionals are not equipped to deal with bullying. That is why it fails. HR professionals are unfortunately not equipped, the same like all your senior managers. So it is important that people are trained, specialized response handling to bullying. So once that is in place, you then need to speak to that individual with a witness or on your own, feel comfortable to address it. And then you take it up in the higher channels into the organization. But whilst doing that, you must also remember to remain confidential and anonymous. You cannot go and tell everybody who the bully is, because that bully is also subjected to privacy and confidentiality rights.
Right. Of course. That bully also has his rights. Absolutely. That was a great tip. So basically, get a friend, get a trusted colleague to support you, and then go confront the bully, because confronting somebody who's actually been bullying you is horrendous, right?
Yes, correct.
We do know that many bullies, when confronted, do back down, but then the very thought of going and confronting somebody whom you actually want to avoid every day for every minute of your life, that may be scary to somebody who's actually going through bullying. So that's a great advice. Take a friend and then go confront the bully, and obviously look through the policies and start documenting everything that the bully does, which you think is bullying. That's amazing advice. And of course, what you said was really pertinent, that first identify that this is bullying and this is not acceptable. Probably that is something that also we need to be trained to do, because what is acceptable and what is not acceptable is also differs from person to person, but a lot of people allow others to cross their boundaries unknowingly. So we need to define for ourselves what is acceptable for us and what is not. Great. That was great advice, Grant.
Absolutely.
And before we sign off, Grant, do you have anything to say to our audience to take back and reflect on?
Yes, I think, like I said, people need to start speaking up. If you see bullying happening to somebody, speak up. Help that person, because your inactivity or your silence could cost that person their life, because that is one of the most severe forms of bullying, is where somebody commits suicide. It's becoming a lot more prevalent in the world, but it's still swept under the carpet. The other thing is just in terms of overcoming the effects of bullying. Me, as part of my training interventions, apart from the dynamics of bullying, we focus on emotional intelligence. So a lot of us, whether it's inborn or not, we have to start to learn to utilize emotional intelligence, understand the social cues, learn to understand yourself, learn how to understand others so that you can manage your emotions and when dealing with others. And then last but not least, I suppose the power of prayer will always supersede and overcome everything, because in as much as what we think that we are social beings and we are EQ smart and IQ smart, the power of prayer will get you through everything, because justice will prevail. So it depends on that organization, how strong they are in terms of eradicating institutional bullying, not accepting, not condoning it. And once that culture of professionalism prevails, it makes for a more productive organization. So identify, learn to speak up, and if you have a problem, speak early enough so that you can get the required assistance and treatment as quickly as possible, so that it doesn't linger and mentally affect you and you commit suicide.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope nobody is bullied to the extent that they would think of, taking their own life. But yes, what you said, I mean, that could happen if bullying is not tackled at the roots and eradicated. Thank you, Grant, so much for this talk. I have learned so many things from you today, and I've learned so much about the systems that actually support bullying in our cultures, our organizations worldwide. And I've also learned how we can make our workplaces safer and how that can actually become a reality. Thank you so much for this, Grant. Guys, I would leave Grant's LinkedIn details here in the Bulletin Bytes and the Bulletin box. Go check out his work. It's me, Zareen, your host, signing off. Remember, support us in our campaign by following our Vodcast and all the social media handles of the Ethical Badass Factory and the Bulletin Box.